So anyways, I will, if you guys haven't, Susan, did you call the meeting to order and get started? No, not yet. Okay. Again, I apologize, but we will go ahead and officially call the meeting to order. And we'll do a roll call of committee members. It looks like we have everyone here.
So
Okay.
Chelsea, we were late starting because we were wishing Nick a happy birthday today.
And I was going to start with that. That's in my notes for today. So I'm glad at least that we didn't miss the most important item. So happy birthday, Nick. You feeling older? Or the kids
No.
young?
Nope. Having a great day so far though. So thanks everybody.
We'll try not to ruin that here.
Thanks.
All righty, so we will start with the roll call. Nick, go ahead and go first.
Nick Meyer here.
Okay, Frankie.
Frankie Boys right here.
Maggie.
Maggie Buckley here.
Kyron.
Kyron comes here.
Susan.
Susan Dominican here.
And I, Chelsea Parker, am here. Sorry, no, I was on mute on purpose. I was sending the children outside. Sorry, I didn't think you needed to hear that. Yeah, bring your snack outside. Guys, will help you. Okay. Otherwise, we won't be able to get anything done. Okay. Would somebody like to read the school verse? Jump right in.
This is our school. May peace dwell here. May the rooms be full of contentment. May love abide here. Love of one another. Love of, and love of life itself. Let us remember that as many hands build a house, so many hearts build a school.
Thank you, Rachel.
Forgot for a moment.
All right, do we have any audience here to address the committee? It's mostly just us. All right, excellent. Let's move into 1.5 then. Does anybody have any agenda modifications? Hearing none. Hearing no? Nobody accidentally on mute trying to modify? Great. Then we will move into 1.6, the minutes from March 9th. I will entertain a motion whenever somebody would like to make one.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from March 9th, 2021.
Great, thank you. We have Frankie with a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Kyron. I will call for the vote. Nick?
Nick Meyer, aye.
Frankie?
Frankie Boys right, aye.
Maggie?
Maggie Buckley, aye.
Kyron?
Kyron comes aye.
Susan?
Susan Dominican, aye.
And Chelsea, aye. Excellent. That takes us into item 2, the financial reports. Jim?
All right. There we go. Okay, we have the financial presentation for March. So current year is going to, should continue to be pretty similar to what we've been discussing. We might see some uptick in expenses through the last quarter. We would kind of expect that as the program changes, but the the surplus is very strong and there's additional funding that we haven't allocated that can be allocated as that occurs. But through March, really good results in line with what we've been discussing. Right now, forecast surplus of 628,000 if we get to take credit for the PPP this year. Inclusive of that, that's, driving the revenue 474,000 above. If we remove kind of these single year items, the CARES Act and PPP, we're still right at about budget on revenue, 29,000 over. Expenses, real solid, below budget, 56,000. Feel good about cash right now, ending March, 478,000. And then notes, there's a lot of new federal money allocated kind of for the end of this year, summer, next year. This is not included. We're going to keep that out of the forecast unless we identify an approved use for that. And then it kind of offset new cost, new revenue. So potential reopening money was quoted at about 88,000. Expanded learning program, which will be coming up soon, is 188,000 eligible. The second round of federal funding is 251,000. And we don't have a solid number on the third round, but we're being told at least 2 times, maybe more than 2 times the second round. Although that's going to be more restricted, a little more unclear on what could be done with that. And so that could be $500,000 looking at next year and the year after that. But we need more information on how that can be utilized. Generally speaking, all of these sources we should view as needing to go towards a new cost. So not one of our standard budgeted operating, but something that we have to add. All this money will be available to expand the program now, and I'm going to estimate the next 2 years. Along with that, notes mid-April, kind of as we look to the May meeting, the expanded learning opportunities grant plan needs to be approved in May. So we can start talking about what to do with that now, and official approval in May. April is a compliance month. We'll be taking care of that. And the annual informational return, the 990, which is used for nonprofits instead of a tax return, will be due mid-May. So we should have that from the auditors for the next meeting. No updates on enrollment or ADA. Revenues, very much like we've been discussing each month. The 153,000 for the first round of learning loss is fully allocated. Expect that the second 23,000, I could call that allocated. I just kind of left it out there because we don't have to report it till June. And then we still had another 80,000 in federal funds that we can allocate in this budget or in next year. Although, as you saw, there's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars now looking at next year's budget and the year after that. So we'll continue to review. It becomes more and more likely that this 80,000 may be allocated, adding to the 2021, whereas before we were trying to save it for 21-22, so much more money has been awarded for 21-22. It looks more likely that we just want to take credit for it as soon as possible and still be able to continue to maintain and expand services in the next year.
That's great. So Jim, do you feel like the amount of additional funds coming in will be plenty adequate to offset? Because I know our current budget year is funded on ADA that we would hope to be able to pull in for next year, but do you feel like this additional funding will allow us to continue to provide the enough services and kind of be a little less nail biting going into next year?
Yes, insofar as we can take credit for it. I just have to hesitate there. So I'm going to say yes. I'm thinking, I think we're trying to have a positive outlook about ADA for next year, that at least we can build a budget at the likely ADA. And then from there, these funds can be used to add on to that. So if we can build the likely ADA number and be able to fund kind of what I would call the base program from there, then this is a lot of money to add intervention, and we still have, you know, other intervention sources like Title I, but intervention, social emotional categories like that will become eligible as we learn more about eligibility under these different plans. We wouldn't be able to use this money to backfill kind of a standard role, but I believe we're confident enough in a minimum ADA to fund the normal program, just not everything you want to do, and that's where this comes into place.
Right, right. And that's great news, because obviously there'll be all kinds of supports and additional things needed. I mean, I think it's obvious as we continue to flex and change and expand what we're doing for students. So that's great. I love hearing that. So thank you, Jim.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a year ago, we were talking about, you know, a 10% dramatic cut, 10% plus. Now we have very significant sources of money, but it is going to be, you know, strings attached, detailed money. And we just have to, this year the challenges will be walking through the magnitude of different board approved action plans we're going to have. Jumping up to expenses, like I said, pretty much what we've been talking about, continuing to operate at an expected level, additional funding available if we determine it was eligible for these activities, or especially if we add cost in the last quarter related to the way the program's running. But, you know, real solid, in line with the conversation we've been having each month. Surplus, inclusive of all that, would be about 628,000. Excellent. Would bring the fund balance over 1 million, about 1.16 million, which would be about a third of the year's expenses. Be very good. Cash continues along the same model we've been talking about. You know, if you think of it like running out the clock, the closer we get to June, as long as it continues where we think it should be, then we're safe. You know, it does look low. You know, we look at a 153 in June, but that's conservative. I think there will be, the way I would say it is, there will be more cash than that. It's just not cash we can use for ongoing operations. So if we have 153 that's free cash, and we have additional cash in the bank, we're just not allowed to touch it, I feel good about that. Because as I continue to use that 153, you know, I'm not driving my bank balance to zero. I just have to know I can't spend past that 153. And so that's kind of where I feel this is compared to a like strict 153 and that's all. That's still in the range where we can continue to monitor that, and that exceeds, you know, we're not looking at zero in July. I don't think we're forced into any borrowing here. And I still think the 153 is conservative. So it's good. I'll be happier when it breaks 200, but I still happy. March, almost 500. We see the deferral impacts, and I think we can still avoid borrowing. If I was worried, I'd be bringing up borrowing right now and saying, let's get a plan in here next month. So I don't think that's going to happen.
That is great news, Jim.
Again, if we look back a year ago, right, it would have been like borrowing is imminent. So very, very strong improvements from where we expected to be. Notes on compliance, some compliance reporting in April. The SB 740 application just opened. We have a month to do that. I mentioned the 990s coming up. And we hadn't added the expanded learning plan yet, because that's June 1st, but that'll be probably the most important compliance item in the next month. Are there any other questions about the March financial update or the March financial statements?
All right, thank you, Jim. I'm not seeing any questions. So with that, we will, we can go ahead and take a motion for 2.1 to include all of the financial reports.
I will make a motion to approve, sorry, the financial reports under 2.1.
Thank you, Kyron. Do we have a second?
I'll second it. Oh, that's me. Frankie will second it.
Thank you, Frankie, for the second. Just writing that down. All right, then I will call for the vote. Nick,
Nick Meyer, aye.
Frankie,
Frankie Boyser, aye.
Maggie,
Maggie Buckley, aye.
Kyron,
Kyron comes aye.
Susan,
Susan Dominican, aye.
and Chelsea, aye. Excellent. That takes us to item 2.2, which is the E-rate filing summary. Jim, is that you or is that Susan on this one?
I don't know this one.
Oh, all righty.
So for those of you who aren't aware, the E-rate is a funding source specifically for schools and libraries to reduce the cost of technology. So we work with Butte County Office of Education and Rachel White, who is a coordinator, to help us organize this. And so this is where we are as far as the summary of our expenses 2020, our expected expenses for next year, I believe. And there are two separate categories: equipment and services. Maggie might be able to help me a little bit this year as we went through and had wiring installed in this building and then settled out. We actually had a point where we had about a $10,000 rebate from Sprint. So costs do go up, but overall it's held pretty equally on our costs. So this is a funding source that allows us to have significant discounts on our technology.
It takes a long time for these rebates to come through, so our bills were pretty high for a while, but we're seeing a significant decrease in the amount per month that we're having to pay now because of the rebates. So that's a plus.
That is excellent, excellent news. So just as I'm looking at the E-rate filing summary that we have in our packet, the number at the bottom of the total annual cost, is that the cost to our school? Because there's a few, there's total annual cost, E-rate share, CTF share, and LEA share. Which is our cost?
Our cost is the LEA share.
Oh. I like that number a lot better because
That's the best number. Yeah.
Yes. That is fantastic. That is great news. I know that this is something that the school has been working on for a while, and so I'm glad to see that we're finally reaping those benefits. So that's great. Does anybody else have any questions about E-rate? Very exciting stuff. All right, then we will move into, Susan, do you need us to take action on this, or is this just information?
It's just informational, Chelsea.
That's what I thought. I just didn't want to run ahead to the next item and leave you hanging.
Okay.
Great. Then that takes us to item 3, business. Susan, if you'd like to start with donations.
So we've had 2 donations that qualify for needing to be accepted, approved by the board. So the first one are 2 computer charging carts from another school, a local school that a staff parent person was able to bring in for us. So we have, as you know, purchased quite a bit of Chromebooks and so forth this year. And so this will help us with storage and charging on that. So we're really very grateful to have those carts. And the second one is from a grandparent in Miss Lee's class, a $1,000 donation for her class fund. So I'd like to say thank you and ask for the committee to recommend to the board that they approve these donations.
Well, these are both excellent news. Thank you for this, Susan. It's always nice to approve incoming donations. So with that, I would love to entertain a motion that we approve accepting these donations.
I make a motion to recommend the Charter Council approve these donations.
Thank you, Kyron. Do I have a second?
I will second.
Thank you. So we have Kyron with the motion and Nick with the second. I will call for the vote. Nick?
Nick Meyer, aye.
Kyron?
Aaron comes, aye.
Frankie?
Frankie Boisari, aye.
Susan?
Susan Dominigini, aye.
Maggie?
Maggie Buckley, aye.
And Chelsea, aye. Great. And then 3.2, the BCOE MOU.
So along the same lines with some of the other work we do, we work with BCOE to help us support our ARIES and CalPADS and management. And we're still really in a learning mode with ARIES. It's our third year, I believe. And so we're still really working on establishing things like grade books and ARIES analytics and things like that. So Butte County is very helpful to us in that. And so we're asking you to, again, approve the annual contract with BCOE.
Susan, are there any, I know we've had a MOU with BCOE. Are there any like big changes in this, or is this just kind of continuing the same? Nothing jumped out at me as odd. I didn't have the last one to compare it to.
No, it's still pretty standard.
Okay.
Same approximate amount and so on.
Excellent. Okay, then I will entertain questions. Does anybody have questions? No? Okay, then I will entertain a motion to recommend the board approve the MOU with BCOE.
I make a motion to recommend the board approve the MOU from BCOE.
Thank you, Frankie. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Excellent. Thank you, Maggie. And I will call for the vote. Nick?
Nick Meyer, aye.
Frankie?
Frankie Boisari, aye.
Maggie?
Maggie Buckley, aye.
Arun?
Aaron comes, aye.
Susan?
Susan Dominigini, aye.
And Chelsea, aye. Great. That takes us to 3.3.
Okay, 3.3 MC2. As you're aware, you approved and we have received the response and the work from MC2 on establishing our message. Our next question to them was, now what? So what is the best way to use this message to reach the parents that we want to reach? And so we met with them, put this out, and this was their proposal that was returned to us as far as helping us with the implementation of putting the information out really on social media, how to best use that to get Alex and our staff up to snuff in what to do and to move forward with that. So I will say, in looking at this proposal, this was very similar in cost to other providers that I spoke to previously, that I brought last year to the committee. So this feels like it's right in line with what, with the industry as a whole. So, so they're focusing, I don't know, they're focusing on, I was going to ask Alex, but I'm not going to. They're focusing on Google search paid advertising rather than Facebook and other things. They felt that that was, they're showing that that is the most responsive. So when you do a Google search, Blue Oak will come up more likely, and people will see ads about it. Their suggested monthly ad spend is $3,000, which, as I said, which as I compared to others, was very similar to that. They're looking at helping us with about a 6-month social media campaign, and then giving us a plan for after that. And again, this budget amount is equivalent to maybe 2 students. So if with this work we receive 2 more students that we might have otherwise, it will be paying for itself.
I think this looks great, Susan. And I know it feels like a lot of money, but especially with the Google search advertising, you know, newspapers and other publications use search engine optimization. And so if you do search for our school, although, you know, if you search very specifically for Blue Oak, we are close to the top, but there's also lots of articles about things from the past that really pop up and are eye-catching. So I think this will really help for us to shine and to really have our current school climate and our current operations really be what floats to the top and gets the attention of those searching for us. I'm very excited about this. Does anybody have any questions about the cost or what's being provided? So it looks like the only question I have, Susan, and Alex, you might know the answer to this as well. It looks under the deliverables, it shows 48 social media posts and a content calendar, and then not included being the posting for that. So will they be generating the post, and then it'll be the responsibility on site to actually publish it to Facebook or wherever? Is that kind of what I'm reading here?
Yeah, that's what she described to me, that she would kind of create the content, you know, kind of map it out on the calendar, even like suggest pictures or give us stock photos, or we would work together, she said, if we needed anything in particular, but then kind of hand it over to me so that I can get it out there, so that they're not having to deal with our, you know, our passwords and all those kinds of things for social media and whatnot.
I think that's excellent. I think, you know, doing it that way also has on the forefront for you when content is going up for advertising, so that you're not competing essentially with yourself. And like, okay, now we're posting the Acorn on the same day as we are posting. Oh, wait, that's, you know, then people aren't seeing what we want them to see. So I think that's great.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see whatever this calendar looks like. I think it'll really help me organize better than just my ongoing Google Doc that I have months and months of worth of content on one Google Doc.
Tools are golden. Okay. So this, Susan, is additional funds that you'd like us to consider. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And I wanted to say the website looks really good. I feel like they've done a good job with that and working with you guys. So yeah, so if there's no further questions, then I will certainly entertain a motion to recommend the board approves this updated marketing plan.
I make a motion that the board approve the updated marketing plan.
Excellent. Thank you, Frankie. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Nick. So we have Frankie with a motion, Nick with a second. We'll call for the vote.
Nick Meyer, aye.
Frankie,
Frankie Boisray, aye.
Maggie,
Maggie Buckley, aye.
Irene,
Everyone comes aye.
Susan,
Susan Dominican, aye.
and Chelsea, aye. Great. Okay, so that pulls us into 3.4, the salary schedules.
So I've brought back the 2 that we discussed last month, and also 2 additional ones that were requested. You'll see across from where it says Blue Oak School, the explanation of each of the schedules. So this one that's in front of us right now is the step, which is going down, is 5%. This actually is the current schedule. And then across for the education, which is the columns, is 3%. So that's where we are today. And then this is the one that would continue with 5% step and 3% educational with the new minimum wage covered. This one is the 5%. This was a little harder, a little longer explanation. 5% down through year 10, then 3% after that, which was one of the requests. Is there one more, Alex?
This one here on the screen is option C, and then there's one more on option D too. I didn't know if you.
And this is 3% annual with a 3% education, both. So final, or 2% and 3%. This is the one that I presented last time.
Do we know what the approximate fiscal impact will be for each of these?
The fiscal impact on the 5% one, what I was able to do is a calculation on the percentage increase. So that percentage increase overall should be 8%. So if all teachers stay and move through that, would be that amount. I also wanted to bring it back to Jim for a minute, and I was informed earlier this week that we'll have a 3% COLA this year. So as far as the initial impact, that would lighten it somewhat. So that would be the biggest, is that 8% on this. And so if you don't do the 5% full, it would be less than a 5% increase actually at this point of cost. We would also need to, and these are some of the calculations that I do as I do budget. We will be reducing 1 classroom teacher this year because of the reduction in the 8th grade. We're eliminating 1 class there. The 1st grade class is there's only 1. So we have going from 2 to 1. Nick Meyer will be moving into one of the specialties, the game specialty position. So still with us and doing great things, but so that's a reduction of a position. We're also doing some changes in other areas. So it is really hard at this point to calculate the total cost per se of this on this particular year's budget where we are.
And I didn't catch this when I was looking at it before, but I feel like something's not right, because as we look at the one that's 5% through year 10,
Mm-hmm.
The bottom line is actually lower. It goes 5% year through year 10 and then 3%, but
Mhm.
starting in, well, it's lower than the 3% annual step.
Hmm.
So like,
So there may be something wrong with my calculation then.
yeah, starting in year 3, the 3% increase is higher than the 5% increase. So I think something is off there, and I missed it when I was looking at it before. I was looking at it, I'm like, oh, I love the idea of giving 5% and then reducing to 3%, especially because it's less. And I go, that doesn't make sense. So yeah, all of the columns appear to be lower.
Chelsea, I'm a little confused at what you're saying. Could you repeat this?
Yeah, so if we look at the option B and option C,
Okay,
option B shows a 5% step increase through year 10, and then it reduces to a 3% step increase after year 10. And then option C is just a 3% all the way through all the steps.
yeah, so I can see in option B, that is not like 52,000 to 53,040. That would not be a 5% increase. That would be lower.
Yeah, and so that's,
Because a 5% increase would be about 25, it'd be $2,600. Exactly. From 52,000.
And we have the numbers.
Yeah, the numbers are correct in A there at 5%.
right, option, wait, where's option A? Option A.
It almost looks like they're reversed. Like it looks like there's a 3% increase and then it 5.
Oh, it shouldn't be right.
But I don't know math well enough to know.
It's still off even with that. I
Yeah,
tried.
it's not a 3% increase in option B either. It's a little less.
Essentially, what would happen though with a 5% step, the step 10 with a 5% increase is close to step 15 with a 3% increase. So then it would switch to 3% at 10 years, which I think would still put us pretty high. Should not have printed this two-sided. It's really messing me up. Okay, so it looks like, oh, it looks like what happened is it's a 2% step through year 10 and then increases to maybe a 3%. So option B, it's only showing a 2% increase through year 10 because it matches option D. Yes. Okay. So
Can you go back to option C? Okay, so that looks like a 3% step all the way down. I guess I'm confused by the 2% annual raise because that wouldn't apply to any of it.
option D is showing a 2% annual step. So
I'm
that's
just saying on option C, it does say 2% annual raise next to year of step.
oh, I think that should probably say 3.
3, yeah, okay.
I think they all say that. This one says 2%, option B and C.
Yeah, but option A says 5%. So I think it was supposed to be, I don't know. Okay. So we still have some options to work out, but do we have questions, comments, thoughts about the salary schedules?
I personally like option C. I just thought I'd note that. It's like in the middle.
I'd want to see an accurate option B first, but yeah, B or C or what's looking feasible. I mean, option A, of course, looks the best, but it just isn't really, I don't think, feasible.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and I think, Nick, option B,
I think you're right about what happened with it, that it was 2% through year 10 and then 3% from on.
because it matches the 2% chart.
Yeah, yeah.
But option B puts us at 76,827 at year 10. So it would be.
You're saying with the 5%, like if it was correct?
Yes, because we do have one that is 5% all the way through.
Yeah, but that's with the old, oh, that's, no, yeah, that's option A, yeah.
Yeah, option A is 5% all the way through. So that does put, if we go that through year 10, that's 76,000, which for a 3% raise, that's year 15.
Yeah, so option B would match option A through year 10 and then would be different from below.
Right, then it would be 3% per year past that. And so. Yeah. So I think that's going to make, especially with our higher columns, I think that's going to push us pretty substantially on the upper years. Because if we look at like column C1 at 10 years is $83,951. So I think that's where we're going to come into like where we had discussed before of running into the problem that our higher year teachers are making more than our administrator without, I mean, obviously we can make that adjustment, but Tyson, if you give me the headphones. Sorry. Okay. 3-year-old that fell down, minor emergency, we're fine. A little kiss, we're all good. Just a minute, Josh, Tyson's getting something. So that would be my only concern is when we start, you know, I love the idea of the 5% annual step. I can get it, 10. Kidding. Okay, everybody, can you hear me? Everybody, yes. So I feel like our upper level teachers, that starts to get pretty substantial.
Chelsea, we could propose other districts do something like you don't get a raise every year, but you get a longevity every so many years. And I believe that has been in place here before. That's another way to look at it. You know, if the annual raise could go down further if you wanted it after a certain point.
And I don't know, the thoughts are out there, maybe Nick and Kyrune as teachers in this, the thoughts of having a more consistent raise through the years versus lower raises or every other year raises or such, within some longevity bumps in there.
I like to keep things simple, so I like a consistent raise.
I do too, and I just think it feels good in terms of morale to get a raise every year. And I think that if B were accurate, I think that that would be a good one. I think it would probably cap out around similar with 108, which if you look at the administrators, it would take a teacher until like year 14 to be making the same as like a third year administrator. So
I think so, Nick. Let's see, year 10 on option B is about year 7 on option C-ish. Between 7 and 8. That does, it just bumps up like 2 years. So it would be theoretically a little higher than the 108 at the top end, but not substantially. So I think you're right with that. I would definitely like to see, I'm with you, Nick. I'd like to see that updated option B. Just to see what that comparison is versus the 3% all the way through. Anybody else have thoughts or comments? Okay, so Susan, I mean, what?
Give me 1 second and I will share this option B. I've been fixing my spreadsheet while you guys were chatting.
Okay.
Should have that. So from 2 to 3, you're saying Karen should be 54,600 at year 3. Is that what you're, if it's 5%? And I think if that's true, then I'm corrected this. At least.
Looks good.
Okay.
You're talking from year 3 to 4 or 2 to 3?
2 to 3. So it should basically, each line should multiply by 1.05 over and over.
Well,
Right.
Thanks for that, but.
Okay, so.
But I'm do my best to work in the spreadsheet.
it should be the same in option A through year 10.
Yes. And also, yeah, I'm seeing like from year 5 to 6. Wait, is that correct? That looks good.
Okay, Alex,
Yeah.
I updated the spreadsheet in Google. Can you access that for 2022B? It does increase those bottom lines pretty significantly.
Yeah, let me just find that document again real quick.
Okay.
Oh, I only have oh, here it is.
Yeah, tabs on the bottom.
Okay, let's try this. And we're looking at option B. Oh, shoot. I'm so sorry. This is from March. Let me try again. I'm in the wrong folder. Susan, do you think you can just share it with me again? I'm not
I
seeing
can
what
try. Okay, here we go.
There we go. Thank you. Of course, I only saved the PDF versions of that last time. Here we go. Option.
The one thing that I'm looking at just from an overall impact, I mean, obviously, without actually knowing where our teachers would fall out on the scale, I'm just looking at our current salary schedule versus even the 3% annual step that's proposed, that's 3% all the way through. For a 15-year teacher in column A, on the 3%, that on this salary scale wouldn't even be able to be achieved until year 21 with a Waldorf or SPED certification and 75 additional units. So, I mean, I think that even a 3% increase, although it seems like a smaller, smaller than the 5% we're currently offering, because that compounds, that still offers a very substantial increase through the salary scale. Column A this year tops out at 62,000, but next year then would jump to 76,000 on that same line. And that's a pretty substantial jump.
Overall, I would say option C looks good to me. It's, it's higher than the current one. And I mean, as you were pointing out, it tops out pretty high, and just the B, as much as I would like that, I just don't think the school could be paying, because a lot of us have around 8 years or more, or 15 years. So, yeah.
Yeah, we have a significant number of our teachers are between 8 and 15 years at this point. So, which just says that's a decent salary that they would receive on the 3%. My caveat to you is that because I wouldn't be able to check each individual teacher, I would want to come back if I see anybody. I would not receiving any raise this year because we changed from 5% to 3%. So it's that sort of calculation. If, I might ask for some, like we did with benefits last year, I might ask for some adjustments.
Susan, with our step 1 starting so significantly higher, there are no steps that are lower on the 3% proposed than on the current 5%.
Thank you for checking that for me, Jess.
Yeah, and that's what I'm looking at. And if we're if really our teachers have an average, like for a teacher from 8 to 15 years, they're looking at a $8,000 to $15,000 a year increase. So I don't think we're going to find that anybody even has, I mean, even a second year teacher would get a $4,000 annual increase.
All right.
Yeah, column C and the Waldorf SPED, those are really going up. I couldn't imagine anyone losing anything. I think they'd be stoked.
Yeah, they're pretty substantial compared to where, you know, and really not just substantial for an immediate increase, but just the potentials of where you can go in your career then become a lot more attractive for our longer term teachers, which as every time we've discussed pay scales, that's been something that we year after year have identified as a priority to continue to be attractive to our teachers in the long term.
Yeah, I'd say you're locking them up for life if we pass.
Yeah.
Well, one thing along with that though, are there any proposed or expected changes to healthcare coverages or, you know, responsibility? Is there anything like that on the horizon to know about?
We don't have any word on that. We just received the changes in January, and there was some increase primarily to the school simply because more teachers took advantage of that, or more staff of the $600 a month that we're paying. More of them use that, but we won't know, Nick, that sort of thing until October.
But there's not anticipation on the school side of proposing paying like a less percentage or something, regardless of the individual amounts?
No.
Yeah, I share the same concern as Nick, even though it doesn't really affect me. I don't want any bad blood about insurance.
Yeah. I feel like we did the hard work last year of making sure of making those changes that made us more in line with what the industry is doing. And then, you know, the hope would be if we're able to do it, that we continue to increase the amount we're paying of insurance. So that's what I see in the future. I don't see us reducing that any further.
My thoughts on that would be like, I think we can expect that the insurance companies will raise their rates. But my thought and my support would be, you know, if insurance goes up 10% overall, that, you know, at most we discuss it being, you know, everybody increases their share by 10%, not Blue Oak has the teachers absorb all of that increase, you know, or something along those lines. So I wouldn't personally think that we'd be doing any major changes, because like Susan said, last year was kind of the big shift to get in line with the industry standards. So I don't foresee that being something on the horizon. Because I'm in agreements with you, Nick and Kyrune, that to again offset the salary schedule change with an insurance change would be detrimental. Okay, so Susan, are you looking for a recommendation on this today, or
Yes, I'd like a recommendation on it today. Jim and I need to get work on preparing a budget for you for next month.
Mhm.
So if not today, if you need another, we can do a special meeting, but I really need it. You know, if you have more questions, you want me to bring something back, we should schedule a special meeting so we can get this done.
Great.
Well, I'm ready to motion that we adopt Schedule C. There is an objection to that.
Okay, I have Kyrune with a motion for option C, which is the 3%, 3% increases through the steps, as well as 3% increase from column to column. So I have a motion on the table. Do I have a second?
I would like to second, but even though, I mean, it looks like nobody's going to take a hit, can we put language in there like Susan suggested of that? I mean, does there need to be language in there, Susan, or is there enough flexibility that if for some reason somebody does get in that position, you can just work that out with them individually without special language in the motion?
Nick, we should have special language in the motion.
Are you referring, Nick, to anybody who would come in less than where they are now?
Yeah, which it looks like there won't be, but just in case there's something weird happens.
So unless, I mean, we can certainly add special language, but unless somebody goes down in the amount of years of experience that they have, it's not actually possible for them
Yeah,
to get
I-
less money.
I
So
just,
Nick, will you trust our two mathematicians on the committee that are saying that's not going to happen?
I mean, I do trust the math. It's just, it's nice to have the language in there to practice. If some, I mean, some, crazy stuff happens. So, but yeah, cool. Yeah, I'm fine with the language then if it seems good. So then I would like to second Karun's motion.
Oh, you know what? Hold on. Option A. Oh, no, sorry. Nope. I was looking at 5% versus 3%. And yes, there's some differences.
Or
there,
can
but-
we just add a line like with the option for admin to negotiate with any teachers who would be adversely affected, which can include a neutral change?
I
No,
would,
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I would caution something like that, but I would support if there is something like that, that it then just comes back to the finance committee and the board if needed. But unless there are teachers who
Yeah, I understand. They can't go back in experience or columns. So I get it.
correct. So unless,
They will not go back and call in experience or education.
Okay.
And so if each spot is going up, then they will get a raise.
Great.
So I brought that up just because of everything that we went through last year. But I think with Karun and Chelsea double checking my math, I feel comfortable with it.
yeah, and I think it's clear that the intention of this committee is that any staff member would not be, and faculty would not be adversely affected by this change. So, if there's an error on this schedule that is making it so the numbers look like they would be positively affected and they're not, I think would be the intention of this committee to re-entertain and adjust for that. So the motion is still on the table. We have Karun with the motion, Nick seconded, and that would be option C, which is the 3% annual increase through the steps and a 3% column to column increase through the columns. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, and I will entertain the vote. Nick,
Nick Meyer, aye.
Frankie,
Frankie Boisere, aye.
Maggie,
Maggie Buckley, aye.
Karun,
Tyrone Combs, aye.
Susan,
Susan Dominican, aye.
and Chelsea, aye. All right. Then we have, that was for the certificated salary schedules, and then we have the classified and administrative salary schedules as well. So Susan, for this classified one, this is the same one that we saw last time, right?
Yes, it
Okay.
is. There are two changes, maybe I didn't make, that I intended to make. Oh, yes, I did make. Oh, not quite right here. It should say proposed effective July. Yeah, no, that's right. Never mind. I'm just
July 1.
late. It should be July 1, 2021. I'm like, no, that's not right, but it is. So so I did make that adjustment, whereas the one that we had before was as of January 1st, 2022. I also made the notation down, you'll see in italics below it, below the chart, that it's a annual increase of 2.5% because you'd asked that question. So I went ahead and put it into the the paper, so everybody would be able to see that. I also made a change on step 7. I'm working with Maggie. One of the things that we have found is there is a little bit less understanding of her work as the human resources person that really does all the contracts and helps with insurance and all sorts of things. And so she asked that be clarified. She's also completed her education in the area of, and has a certificate in human resources, and is really being very helpful. So I wanted to, there's no change in the salary schedule, but I wanted to make that note that that's why there's a change on that step 7 that we're changing her title only.
Okay, so previously the business office position was step 7. So the adjustment is solely the title.
The title, correct.
Okay, perfect. And I think that is a more accurate title for the work that position is responsible for. So I think that makes sense.
Okay.
Okay. Does anybody have questions on the classified schedule? And this essentially, not essentially, this puts us in compliance for the increased minimum wage and then trickles the annual increases through the schedule. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Chelsea, I do have one more addition that I just saw. We have our instructional aides are on the first row, row 3. There is a need for a paraprofessional in the new funding that we have. So we have added that, and that would take additional training above our instructional aid positions. And so we've put that as a potentially, we have no one in that position at this point, but we would put that at a level 4, and that makes it equivalent, fairly closely equivalent to the district. I think where it would be, they would start at 1575. I think the districts start somewhere about 1614. So we're pretty close in there with them, but wanted to mention that as if we have instructional aides, and Rachel and I are working on a qualification process for that, but as we were doing this, it made sense to put that notation in there at this point.
Okay, great. Thank you for that clarification, Susan. Does anybody have any questions about the paraprofessional being classified on beginning in column step 4? All right. Does anybody have additional questions or comments on the classified hourly rate schedule that's being proposed? Okay, seeing none, I will entertain a motion to recommend the classified hourly rate schedule to the board for approval.
I make a motion to recommend the classified hourly rate schedule to the board.
Great, thank you, Frankie, with the motion. Do I have a second?
I will second Frankie's motion.
Great, thank you, Kyron. Then I will call for the vote. Nick?
Nick Meyer, aye.
Frankie?
Frankie Boisray, aye.
Maggie?
Maggie Buckley, aye.
Kyron?
Kyron comes aye.
Susan?
Susan Dominigini, aye.
And Chelsea, aye. Great, and so that takes us then to the administrative salary schedule. And I'd like to welcome those who are coming in just real briefly for the board meeting. We are almost at the end of our finance committee meeting, and so we'll be with you very shortly. We have 1 and a fraction of an item left to cover, so thank you for your patience. So we are now, this takes us to the administrative and management salary schedule.
So we reviewed this last time, and I believe it was, we figured it was a 1.8% increase. So now I'm seeing it 2%, so I don't think that's much of a change, right?
I think I'm not sure. I didn't round up on that, Karen. I didn't really, I don't know that I changed any numbers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why didn't we
Oh.
approve this last time? I felt like we did.
Yeah. Maybe.
Let me-
Well, there were some questions because we were unsure of the, my recollection is
Yeah,
that
I have my notes in front of me from the last meeting, and I think because we still had discussion items to do with the certificated schedule, we didn't take action on the administrative schedule into, pending action on the certificated to not then put them upside down where our teachers were making more than our administrators and have that be. So,
Okay, makes sense. I just remember us talking about this last time.
we did.
and we definitely did. So thank you for that, Frankie. I'd rather double check than be contradicting ourselves. So Susan, with this, just because it's a daily rate, and I'm not sure what the teacher's rate is approximate for daily rate at the different steps. Are you comfortable with this salary schedule producing an income adequate in comparison to the certificated salary schedule? Does that question even make sense?
Yeah, it does. Let me do a
Okay.
quick calculation for you.
And then also while you're doing that, hopefully it doesn't mess you up, but with this salary schedule, there's just the 6 steps and then only 5 steps for the facilities and safety manager. Is that pretty standard?
Yes, I did that based on other salary schedules. So, hold on.
Perfect. I thought so. I just wanted to make sure that we're not then going to go, okay, now at 6 years, we need to rediscuss the rest of the salary schedule. I guess by 6 years, you want to just retire, right?
Well, in 6 years, Chelsea, who knows? So at 182-day rate, and of course, an administrator never just works 182 days.
Correct.
But the 182 days is the teacher's salary. So for the assistant director, a starting assistant director would start at 70,890. So it's significantly above where the starting rate of that. And of course, right now, our rates, as I've noticed, is 210 days. So if we were starting a brand new administrator this year, they would start at 81,900.
Okay.
And just to clarify, both columns for SPED assistant director and executive director are increasing by 2% now.
Yes.
So for me,
I
my
just-
only concern is an executive director with 6 years of experience let's see, we do it at the 182-day rate. Oh, whoops. Is only $87,000. So that is that year 17 as a teacher. With
But Susan, if I'm understanding, you should do 210 days for administrator.
Yes.
correct, but if
This is asking for comparison to the teacher's salary schedule, so that's why I gave the 182 days. But yes, the actual contract would never be less than 190 days.
so 480.28 times, you said 190 days? That's still
Yeah.
only $91,000. Is that standard for an administrator salary scale to top out lower than a teacher's salary scale?
No, it's not.
So that would be my concern with a 2% increase on our administrative salary schedule, is that with an administrative credential above a teaching credential, that they still top out lower than our teachers do.
Well, but does it plateau out, Susan, at 6 years, or does it keep going?
This particular scale plateaus out at 6 years. Most administrative, or you don't expect somebody to be in administration for 20 years.
Mhm.
So they generally don't, or they are not as deep as the teacher's annual. So again, this is a difficult one for me. I pulled numbers from other districts and compared it to what to do it here. I didn't necessarily do a close compare as between the teacher and the administrators in the districts either. So certainly if you want to have me go back and revisit this again with additional, as we did with the teacher salary with additional options, I'd be glad to do that.
But with your research, you said that this is on par for the industry, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
For the size of school we are.
Mhm.
I think that's, yeah.
I think where the issue lies is that we are increasing the administrative salary schedule by 2% on the daily rate versus 2% of an annual salary. So from year 1 to year 6, our administrator's salary only goes up by $9,000 after 6 years of increases. It's a $9,000 difference between year 1 and year 6. And for versus doing 2% of an annual salary year over year, or 3%, then those numbers here larger. I don't. It just does not feel like.
Does this action need to be made tonight, or is this something that we can ask for more options on and then reevaluate it in May?
This one would be acceptable to ask for more options on and take another month to look at. It's not the percentage of the cost to the budget that the teacher's salary and the classified salary is, so that those would make it difficult for us to proceed, but we could proceed with budget and still leave this open.
Yeah, I would personally, I mean, I would love to hear from from the rest of the committee, but I would definitely like to see a couple of options, specifically what the 2% versus a 3% would look like on the administrative scale. And Tyrone, if you wanted to do the quick math on that, I see.
Well, I would say come back with the 3%, because if we are budgeting, given that we only have 2 administrators and 1 facilities manager, if you adjust that one to 3% as well, it's not going to have a massive impact on planning.
I think it's definitely worth looking into, because if we're already offering something, especially with the amount of work we know that these positions do for our school, I think it's worth us at least giving it a look.
Yeah, and it's not substantial, like Tyrone said. So because it's not going to hold up budget discussions to do that, I would love to, and you're not recommending that we have a special meeting simply for this. I would move that we table the administrative salary schedule to the next meeting in order to see a 2% versus a 3% increase. Is that pleasing to the committee?
Yeah.
Pleased.
Where'd she go? We lost her.
She,
I think she's
There she is.
there. Her camera's just high. So Susan, when you sit back, you disappear off the screen, and when you sit up, we cut to your forehead. So,
Sorry about that. Oh,
so we
That's
can't see her
that is-
napping.
that is a very workable solution, and I always appreciate the thoughtfulness of the committee in doing this work. So thank you.
I think that equity is important. Okay, so then we will table that to our next meeting and just do that with the budget discussions. And then item 3.5, Susan, we can wrap this meeting up with your executive director's report, and then we will adjourn this meeting and let Monica take over for our joint meeting.
Great. So just very quickly, Jim spoke about the additional monies that are coming in for what I'm calling learning loss funding. I'm sure they'll have 5 different names when it comes down to it. But the idea of how are we addressing the issues post-COVID. So I wanted to bring that up, and the initial amount that Jim informed me that we need to be thinking of prior to June 1st. So this proposal will need to go through the committee in May, is about 188,000. So I wanted to put that out there, and that there's a significant estimate for what kind of funds we're going to bring in over the next 2.5 years. So not bad news, just preparation that we will be discussing that next month. That's it.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Susan. It looks like our next regular scheduled Finance Committee meeting is Tuesday, May 11th. Just a reminder to the other Finance Committee folks, this is our big budget meeting, so please take and set aside some extra time in the days leading up to that meeting to really review your materials and come ready to push your sleeves up and get down and dirty in the budget. Also, just a reminder that if you have any questions on the materials provided, feel free to email them to Alex ahead of time so that Susan and Alex can be prepared and available to answer those questions for us at the meeting to expedite as much as possible, be efficient. So thank you so much. We'll adjourn this meeting, but don't go anywhere because you're part of the next meeting. Monica, take it away.
All righty. Thank you. I don't know why I'm connecting to audio separately. Can people hear me? Okay, great. Hi, everybody. So let's call to order the special meeting of the Blue Charter Council. Let's do a roll call vote. I don't have an agenda in front of me. My printer's not working. I'm not sure if one was even sent. So I'm just going to kind of wing it, okay, guys, because I'm not all unpacked from my move yet. So let's take a roll call vote, and all my people just moved. So let me get this going. All right, Chelsea, are you here?
I am here.
Okay, fantastic. Trisha?
Here.
Amber?
Here.
Monica McDaniel here. I don't see other board meetings here, but board members here. Are there other people that are just not on my screen?
It looks like Trisha, you, me, Amber is all we have in attendance right now.
Okay.
Wait, let me. Yep, that is it. Susan or Alex, do you have either of you have information on our community members, our other community members, and whether or not they will be here?
Vicky should be attending. Laura and Laurel said they will be out.
Okay. So we're just waiting on Vicky essentially?
Yeah, and Monica, we will need to wait for her to have a quorum.
Okay.
I'm going to step away for just a moment while we do
Okay.
that.
So I just sent Vicky a text just in case. I don't know if other people know or think we should get in touch with her.
I called everyone this morning and I talked to her. So hopefully maybe she
Okay.
just forgot.
Yeah.
Is it the same Zoom link? She might be going to that. It's the same one. Okay.
It was the one Alex emailed to all of us. Yeah. And it is the same Zoom link, right, Alex? Because I noticed it brought me right to finance committee meeting.
Yeah, I did that on purpose so there was no confusion.
Great. Thank you. Well, I'll read the school verse while we're waiting for Vicky to show up to establish a quorum. How does that sound? I don't know if that was already read for the finance committee meeting. And I can't move this agenda. This is our school. May peace dwell here. May the rooms be full of contentment. May love abide here. Love of one another, love of our school, and love of life itself. Let us remember that as many hands build a house, so many hearts build a school.
I have a question since this is my first joint meeting. Do we need to take roll for finance committee as well? Or is that, and like vote for, everyone has to vote, right? Or,
Yes.
okay.
So in the past, what we've done, and Susan, you can correct me if there's a different way we'd like to do it. But in the past, what we have done is if there is a vote that needs to be entertained, the finance committee, I would call the vote of the finance committee first, since we're an advisory committee to the board, and then Monica or the board chair essentially would then call the vote of the board.
That makes sense. Thank you
And
for
Vicky's here
clarifying.
now. Thanks for clarifying that.
I'm sorry.
That's okay, Vic. You want to? You're the last person to sign in to say that you're here to establish a quorum, please.
Vicky Wanacott here.
Okay, fantastic. So now that we have a quorum established, I can barely see the agenda. Normally I have it printed out and I work off of that. Are there any agenda modifications? Nope. Is there any audience to address the council?
Monica, before that, just because I know
Yeah.
you don't have your agenda in front of you, if you'd like, I can read the school verse.
I already read it, but you could read
Oh, sorry, then I
it.
missed it.
Actually
No,
have a
please.
quorum.
Thank you. Sorry.
I thought I would do it to save time.
I
So-
just wasn't sure if we could do that before we had a quorum, so I apologize. That was when I stepped out momentarily.
Well, yeah, it's not, I did it out of order just to kind of.
You're fine. Great.
Okay,
Even better.
thanks. Okay, so any audience to address the council? I don't see any. Let me look in participants and see if there's any hands up. I don't see any hands up.
I
Okay,
do just have one thing of note though, Monica, just
Okay.
for the board. One of us 3 parent members will have to abstain if there is a vote taken tonight because we have an unaided member.
okay. Thank you for pointing that out. And like I said, I can't see everybody on my screen. So, so then what's the next item? Can someone scoot the agenda down so I can read it? Because we've already done 1.5. So what's next? Thanks, Alex. So we're going into closed session. So that would mean all the members that are present. I'm very excited to hear what it's about. All right, so do we need to go to breakout rooms, Alex? How do we need to do this?
Yes, I can open those. Perfect.
Hello.
Sorry, I am really challenged with these breakout rooms. I
That's okay.
apologize.
Yeah, we did great. So we're just going to report out that we gave Susan Dominigini direction to speak on behalf of the school.
And the vote for Finance Committee on that was Nick, Chelsea, Maggie, Susan, and Kyroon voting aye.
And then from the Charter Council, it was Monica McDaniel, Chelsea Parker, Vicky Wanacott, Trisha Ateatora, working on it, who all said aye. And Amber Brown chose to abstain. All right, I think that's it. Is there any other business we need to conduct besides adjourning to the next Charter Council meeting on Tuesday of next week?
Yes, that I think that's enough. And again, I thank you all for your work this evening.
Great, thank you.
All righty. Thanks, guys.
It's exciting and terrifying all at the same time.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you. This is good. This will be really good for us. It'll be good for
Yeah.
Blue Up.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a lovely evening.
Bye.